When Chasten came out to his family and friends as a teenager in northern Michigan, he was convinced the only option was running away. While couch surfing for housing and working multiple jobs, he pushed through community college, finding strength in friendships along with renewed relationship with his parents, who demonstrated that people who love you most can grow alongside you. He went on to graduate from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and he holds a master's degree in education from DePaul University. During the 2020 presidential election, he became well known as an outspoken advocate for arts education, mental health, and LGBTQ rights. He's a former middle school teacher, a New York Times best-selling author, and most recently, a father to 2 infant twins, Joseph and Penelope. He lives in Washington, D.C. and Michigan with his husband, Pete. Please join me in welcoming Chasten Buttigieg.
Thank you for inviting me into your community and allowing me to honor the lives of your friends and family with you this evening. What an honor it is to be with you, truly. I must be honest, when I was invited to speak this evening, I immediately said yes because I have held you and your community so close to my heart for the last 6 years. And then I started sitting at the computer trying to find the words to say to you. And for weeks, I stared at a blank cursor. I may have felt that way because even 6 years later, no words can match the enormity of your loss or the meaning of what happened at Pulse. But maybe trying to find the perfect words to match what happened is besides the point. Maybe the point, or part of the point, is the community that now exists in honor of those lives who were taken, and the work of that community to continue in a struggle that we are being reminded again and again will be the struggle of a lifetime. 6 years ago, I didn't know your names. I didn't know your stories. And yet today I can tell you I have carried you with me every day. I have cried for you, I have grieved for you, I have prayed for you, and I have never forgotten you. But what do you say to the families who have suffered unthinkable loss? What do you say to the friends whose worlds were torn apart as their best friends were ripped from them on a dance floor? And what do you say in this moment in our nation when too many of the people we depend on to lead with love and compassion and wisdom and judgment continue instead to divide rather than deliver? Continue to single out the vulnerable in order to gain power? The loss you have incurred is unfathomable, and the frustration and anger you must feel as our community continues to let us down, as our country continues to let us down over and over and over again on gun violence is shared. And yet there is no denying the amazing and positive things that have also happened in the years since that terrible night, including the incredible community that you have created, a kind of family, a family that I have been blessed to have met throughout the last few years, a family that has inspired other families across this country. Even though we all don't know one another, and for many of us this evening is our first time meeting, I do feel as if we have known one another for some time. Because when you belong to the LGBTQ community, or you are an ally of the community, you know a thing or two about the term chosen family. And you know how important that term is to those who found their family at places like Pulse. Even for our allies, who are also among those taken from us that night, the sense of community and love and belonging found within spaces like Pulse were the foundation and the reinforcement of meaningful, lifelong friendships. For some in the LGBTQ community, it is not uncommon to walk away from the only community that you have ever known, or even from family, simply because you were made to feel you didn't belong there. And maybe not only were you made to feel that something about you was wrong, but sometimes you were made to feel that you weren't even worthy of love or acceptance or community. That is certainly how I felt when I ran away from home after coming out the summer I graduated high school. And we have not yet reached that day when that story is no longer common. The LGBTQ community has and continues to be shunned, ostracized, blamed, harassed, and scapegoated. And I know you don't have to look too far in Florida for examples. Sometimes those we love in this community are forced to flee the only stability they have ever known simply because there is no other option. And sometimes, as we know, they don't even get a chance to see the world on the other side of those struggles. For many of us who made that trip into the unknown, every moment that follows feels like a jigsaw puzzle. Each day is full of rough edges and mismatched pieces as you try to put yourself back together. You see, when you grow up being taught that something about you is inherently wrong, you start to question everything about yourself. And when you finally get away from what made you run, if you get away from what made you run, you look in the mirror and you start to wonder which parts of you are real and which ones you created just to satisfy the world around you. And after we ran, we sought out spaces and community that made us feel whole, made us feel free, made us feel, even if only for a few hours, that the ground we danced on and the air that we breathed was created for us and only us. It came alive within spaces like Pulse. We made friends, found family, and danced until pain was numb and the memories of a past life were pushed to the back of our minds. Sometimes the sense of self we built in spaces like Pulse was so powerful that it gave us ways to return to our original communities or families on new terms, like mine. For others, spaces like Pulse introduced us to strangers who accepted us so completely that we had a sense of family the moment we stepped in. Gay, straight, trans, no matter your identity. What made the loss at Pulse so visceral for so many of us, even those of us who did not have the fortune of knowing the 49 lives who were taken that night, was that so many of us found our families, our best friends, and sometimes even our lives again because of the space that was created on similar dance floors. And now, as we reflect on 6 years, we ask ourselves, what do we do now? Where do we go from here? We made a commitment 6 years ago to honor their lives with action. But what do you do when so many in countless cities across the country refuse to lift a finger? What do you do? What do you do when hope feels lost? When you're frozen in questions? Well, look around you. Go ahead, look around you right now. You may see faces of those you've known for years, or people you haven't yet met. Family members who loved their children completely. Co-workers whose lives were brightened for the better because of the angel that they knew. This isn't just a crowd full of people. It's a community. It is a family. It is a symbol of love and acceptance. It is light in the darkness. And it is making the world a better place, even if all the sharp and painful broken things aren't going to be fixed overnight. And we are here to keep this family, this community, and build it. That's work. It's good work. And there's a lot of that work ahead of us. I know that work can feel heavy, but this community will not let you carry it alone. And then there's the work we will all go back out of this place and do, one at a time as individuals. And the question is, will we do it differently because we came here today? we all have to figure out what it means to live up to the spirit of this community, the amazing community of survivors we honor today, and the wider community of your supporters and allies that I am proud to be a part of. And to me, at least, a big part of doing that work is to live your life to the fullest extent possible as your fearless, beautiful, unique, and full self. I refuse to shy away from my pride as a gay man, a loving husband, a father, and as a vocal ally to those in our wider LGBTQ+ community whose experiences and realities are much different than mine. Knowing what it took for each of the people at Pulse that night to be who they were, to find their whole selves, it seems to me that any of us can honor them by showing up each day as our own complete selves, ready to love and give and push forward when those around us would seek to push us backward. And reach out and pull up those who feel they can't make it alone. One at a time, out in the world, we can make every place we walk into the kind of place that builds community, builds family. And whenever we come together, like we are right now, we get to see what the spirit of that family and that community looks like. So let's honor them by creating the world that was sought within the walls of Pulse, within whatever walls each of us works and lives in. Make every space you occupy full of love and life and spirit of togetherness that those who danced on this floor sought out. I promise to do that with you any way I know how. Thank you.